Daniel Carter's wrench clattered to the concrete floor as he grabbed the phone. A woman's voice sliced through the line like a blade. "I know about your son's school. I know about your dead wife's medical bills. I know you helped my daughter yesterday. My driver will collect you in 20 minutes. The line went dead. Daniel stood frozen in his garage at 6:15 in the morning, grease-stained hands trembling. He'd just changed a flat tire for a crying teenage girl in the rain. Nothing more. A simple act of kindness. Now a billionaire knew his son's name, his debts, his address, and she was coming for him. What Daniel didn't know yet was that one flat tire had just pulled him into a web of illegal weapons, corporate murder, and a conspiracy someone would kill to protect. Comment the city you're watching from so I can see how far this story travels. I know about your son's school. I know about your dead wife's medical bills. My driver will collect you in 20 minutes. Daniel's blood went cold. Who the hell is this Catherine Blackwell? Don't make me wait. Click. He stared at the phone. Catherine Blackwell. The billionaire. Blackwell Dynamics. Her face plastered across Forbes and CNN. Net worth in the billions. She knew about Lucas. She knew about Maria's debt. His mind raced back to yesterday afternoon. The rain hammering down. A silver Mercedes on the roadside. A teenage girl sobbing beside it. He'd pulled over. "Hey, you okay?" She'd looked up, mascara streaking her cheeks. "My tire's flat. The tow truck said an hour. My mom's going to kill me. I'm not supposed to be here." "Where's here?" "It doesn't matter. I just need to get home." Daniel had already grabbed his jack. "I'll have you moving in 10 minutes. "You don't even know me." "Don't need to." He'd changed the tire in the downpour. She'd tried to pay him. He'd refused. "Just don't go over 50 on that spare." That was it. 10 minutes of his life. Basic human decency. Now a billionaire was threatening his family. Daniel took the stairs 2 at a time. Lucas sat at the kitchen table spooning cereal while reading a math workbook. "Dad, what's wrong?" "Nothing, buddy. I need to go out. Mrs. Chen's going to walk you to the bus." "But my math competition." "I'll be back, I promise." Lucas studied him with Maria's eyes. The same sharp gaze his mother used to level when she knew he was hiding something. "Is it about the crying girl from yesterday?" Daniel froze. "How'd you know about that?" "I heard you on the phone last night. You told Mr. Patterson." Lucas set down his spoon. "Is she in trouble?" "I don't know yet." "Are we in trouble?" Daniel knelt down, eye level, the way Maria always did. "Nobody's in trouble. I just need to find out what this lady wants. What if she wants something bad? Then I'll handle it. Promise. Promise." An engine purred outside. Daniel looked through the window. A black Bentley sat in front of his shop like a spaceship landed in a junkyard. Lucas appeared beside him. "That car costs more than our whole building." "Probably." "Dad." Lucas grabbed his sleeve. "Mom always said rich people only help themselves." Daniel squeezed his son's hand. "Your mom was usually right. But I'm not rich people. I'll be fine." The driver didn't speak. He opened the door and waited. Daniel climbed into leather that probably cost more than his annual income. The car pulled away, climbing into hills where houses had gates and the views stretched for miles. The Blackwell estate materialized like something from a different planet. Glass and steel. Sharp angles. The kind of architecture that announced its owner had enough money to bend the world to her will. The driver led him through corridors of polished concrete and silent wealth. Daniel felt every scuff on his work boots, every grease stain on his jeans. She stood at a floor-to-ceiling window overlooking the city. Small woman, dark hair pulled back tight. A charcoal suit that cost more than his truck. She didn't turn around. Daniel Carter, 43. Widower, former engineer at Westbrook until the acquisition. Now you fix cars in a garage with a leaking roof. You got me out of bed at 6 in the morning to read my resume." Now she turned. Her eyes were ice. Calculating. "Your son Lucas is 10. Lincoln Elementary. Math competition today. He's favored to advance to state level." Daniel's hands clenched. "Leave my son out of this. Your wife Maria died 3 years ago. Ovarian cancer. You still owe $142,000 in medical debt. I said leave my family out of this." "I'm not threatening your family, Mr. Carter." She walked toward him slowly. "I'm demonstrating that I understand exactly who you are, what you've lost, what you're fighting to protect." "Why?" "Because yesterday you stopped to help a crying girl in the rain. You changed her tire. You refused payment. You told her to drive safe." Catherine stopped 3 feet from him. "That girl was my daughter Sophie." "I figured. What you don't know is why she was crying before the flat tire." Daniel said nothing. 4 years ago, someone tried to kidnap Sophie. Her father intervened. Richard took 2 bullets to the head. The air in the room changed. "He survived." Catherine continued, her voice flat. "Technically. The brain damage was catastrophic. He doesn't know who Sophie is anymore. Doesn't recognize his own daughter." "I'm sorry." "Don't be sorry. Be useful." She pulled a folder from her desk. "Sophie told me everything about your encounter. How kind you were. How you expected nothing in return." Her eyes narrowed. "She wants you to service her car. She wants to learn basic maintenance from you. That's a lot of want from a stranger." "Sophie doesn't trust people, Mr. Carter. Not since her father was shot. Not since—" Catherine paused. "Not since she started believing I was responsible." Daniel blinked. "Your own daughter thinks you arranged the shooting." "Yes, she's been investigating me for years. Convinced I chose my company over her father." Catherine's jaw tightened. "She's wrong, but she won't believe me." "Why are you telling me this?" "Because you're the first person she's opened up to in 4 years. The first person outside this house she's trusted even slightly." Catherine slid the folder across the table. "I want to hire you. Not just for Sophie's car. For my entire corporate fleet. Monthly retainer. Triple your current income." Daniel didn't touch the folder. "What's the catch?" "No catch." "Lady, there's always a catch." Catherine's mask slipped for just a second. Underneath was something he didn't expect. Fear. "My daughter is investigating something dangerous, Mr. Carter. Something at my company that I'm only beginning to understand. She's following her father's footsteps." Her voice dropped. "Richard was investigating too, right before he was shot." "Investigating what?" "I don't know yet, but I know Sophie won't stop. And I know she trusts you." Catherine stepped closer. "I need you to protect her, to find out what she knows, to keep her alive." "You want me to spy on your daughter?" "I want you to save her. There's a difference." Daniel stared at the folder. The numbers on the contract would change everything. Pay down Maria's debt. Secure Lucas's future. Fix the roof. Hire help. But something was wrong. "Why me?" he asked. "You have resources, security teams, investigators. Why a mechanic with a leaking roof?" "Because my resources can be bought. My security teams can be compromised." Catherine met his gaze. "You stopped in the rain to help a crying stranger. You refused money. You went home to your son like it was nothing." "It was nothing." "Exactly." For the first time, something like emotion flickered in her eyes. "That's exactly why I need you. Because to you, basic decency is nothing special. In my world, Mr. Carter, it's the rarest thing that exists." Daniel's phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. "Don't trust my mother. Meet me at Carter Repairs tomorrow. Come alone. Sophie." His phone buzzed again. Different number. "Mr. Carter, this is Marcus Webb, CFO of Blackwell Dynamics. I strongly advise you to decline Mrs. Blackwell's offer. Some doors once opened cannot be closed. We should speak privately." Daniel looked at Catherine. She was watching him. "I'll think about it," he said. "Think quickly. Sophie's running out of time." She turned back to the window. "My driver will return you home. I expect your answer by morning." The Bentley descended through neighborhoods that got smaller and shabbier with every mile. Daniel watched the mansions disappear, replaced by chain-link fences and cars on blocks, and the familiar decay of the world he actually lived in. His shop appeared ahead. Peeling paint. Crooked sign. The roof that leaked every time it rained. Lucas was waiting at the window. Small face pressed against the glass. Worried. Daniel climbed the stairs slowly. "Dad?" Lucas threw his arms around him. "What happened? What did she want? Are we okay?" Daniel held his son tight. "Maria's boy. The only thing left of her in this world. She offered me a job. A good job. A big job. Are you going to take it?" Daniel thought about the 2 texts on his phone. The daughter warning him away from the mother. The CFO warning him away from both. He thought about Richard Blackwell shot in the head for investigating something at his own company. He thought about Sophie crying on the roadside before the flat tire. Before Daniel ever entered the picture. "I don't know yet, buddy. What does your gut say?" Daniel looked out the window at the world he knew. The struggling shop. The mountain of debt. The life he'd built from the wreckage of everything he'd lost. "My gut says I should run the other direction." "Then why won't you?" Because the girl was crying before the flat tire. Because the mother was afraid of something she couldn't name. Because someone had shot a man in the head for asking questions. Because Daniel Carter had spent 5 years playing it safe, and all it had gotten him was a leaking roof and a debt that would outlive him. Because sometimes buddy running isn't the right choice. Lucas looked up at him with Maria's eyes. Mom would have said the same thing. Daniel's throat tightened. Yeah, she would have. That night after Lucas fell asleep, Daniel sat at his desk and read both texts again. Sophie. Don't trust my mother. Marcus Webb. Some doors once opened cannot be closed. Catherine Blackwell's folder sat beside him. The contract that would change everything. Daniel opened his old engineering notebook. He hadn't touched it since Westbrook collapsed. Since Maria got sick. Since his life as an engineer ended and his life as a survivor began. He wrote 2 words at the top of a blank page, Project Shadow. He didn't know what it meant yet, but he was going to find out. Daniel didn't sleep that night. He sat at his desk until 3 in the morning staring at the contract Catherine Blackwell had given him. The numbers blurred together after a while, but the amount never changed. Triple his income. Enough to erase Maria's medical debt in 18 months. Enough to send Lucas to any college he wanted. Enough to buy his silence, maybe, or his loyalty. At 6, he gave up pretending to rest. He showered, made coffee, and was standing in the garage when Sophie Blackwell's silver Mercedes pulled up at exactly 7:15. She got out slowly, looking nothing like the crying girl from 2 days ago. Today she wore designer jeans, a cashmere sweater boots that cost more than his monthly rent. But her eyes were the same. Wounded, wary, old beyond her years. You came alone, Daniel said. You read my text. I read both texts. Yours and the one from Marcus Webb. Sophie's face tightened. Webb contacted you. Warned me, actually. Said some doors can't be closed once they're opened. He's right about that. Sophie walked into the garage, her gaze sweeping over the tools, the oil-stained floor, the calendar on the wall with Lucas's math competition circled in red. Did you sign my mother's contract? Not yet. Good. Don't. Why? Sophie turned to face him. Because my mother is using you. She doesn't want you to protect me. She wants you to spy on me, to find out what I know and report back. She told me you've been investigating her, that you think she's responsible for what happened to your father. She told you that... She told me a lot of things. Sophie laughed, but there was no humor in it. Of course she did. That's what she does. Controls the narrative, makes herself the victim. She stepped closer, lowering her voice, even though they were alone. My father wasn't shot by random kidnappers, Mr. Carter. He was shot because he found something. Something inside Blackwell Dynamics that my mother wanted buried. What did he find? A project called Shadow Strike. Illegal weapons development. EMP technology being sold to foreign buyers. Sophie's jaw tightened. My father was the CFO before the divorce. He designed the company's financial systems. He knew where every dollar went, and he found millions being funneled through shell companies to develop weapons that don't officially exist. Daniel felt the ground shifting beneath him. That's a serious accusation. It's not an accusation, it's a fact. Sophie pulled a folded paper from her pocket. I found this in my father's hidden files, a safe my mother doesn't know about. Daniel unfolded it. Technical specifications. Most of the details were redacted, but the Blackwell Dynamics logo was clear, and at the top, Project Shadow Strike. This is military technology, he said quietly. Exactly. But Blackwell Dynamics doesn't have defense contracts for weapons development. They're authorized for civilian applications only, communications, autonomous vehicles. Sophie's voice shook with controlled anger. My father discovered they were developing weapons under the radar, using company resources for technology that was being sold to people who should never have access to it. Who's buying? That's what my father was trying to figure out when they shot him. Daniel stared at the document. His engineering mind was already analyzing the partial specifications, recognizing the complexity of what was described. Targeted electromagnetic pulse delivery. Precision disruption of electronic systems. You're saying your mother authorized this? My father traced the financial approvals. They required 2 signatures, his and my mother's. Sophie's eyes burned. He never authorized it, which means she did, using forged credentials. Or someone else forged both signatures. That's what my mother wants you to believe. Sophie shook her head. She's brilliant at this, Mr. Carter, making herself look innocent, making everyone else look guilty. What about Marcus Webb? Where does he fit? Webb was my father's protege. They worked together for years. Sophie hesitated. I don't know whose side he's on. He might be trying to protect my father's legacy, or he might be involved in Shadow Strike himself. So I shouldn't trust your mother. I shouldn't trust Webb. Who exactly should I trust? No one. Sophie met his gaze. Including me. The honesty of it struck Daniel. This wasn't a naive teenager spinning conspiracy theories. This was someone who had learned the hard way that everyone had an agenda. Why are you telling me this? He asked. You don't know me. Because you helped me without wanting anything. Because you didn't ask questions or try to leverage the situation. Sophie's voice softened. Do you know how rare that is in my world, to meet someone who just does the right thing? Daniel thought of Maria. The way she used to volunteer at the community center, even when they couldn't afford gas money. The way she'd give their last $20 to a stranger who needed it more. It shouldn't be rare, he said. But it is. Sophie folded the document back into her pocket. My mother offered you a contract because she thinks she can buy you. Control you. Use you to find out what I know. She paused. But I think she miscalculated. How so? Because you're not for sale, Mr. Carter. I saw that the moment you changed my tire in the rain. The garage fell silent, except for the distant hum of traffic and the drip of a faucet that needed fixing. What do you want from me? Daniel asked finally. Help me find the truth. My father left evidence somewhere, documentation that would prove everything about Shadow Strike. He called it his insurance policy. Sophie's frustration showed through. I've been looking for 3 years. His apartment, his office, our old vacation house, nothing. Maybe it was destroyed. He wouldn't have risked everything without making copies, without securing proof somewhere safe. Sophie shook her head. It's out there. I just haven't found it yet. And if you do, then what? Then I take it to the FBI, the SEC, anyone who will listen. Her voice hardened. Then I make whoever shot my father pay for what they did. Daniel studied her. 17 years old, wealthy beyond imagination. But underneath it all, just a girl trying to get justice for her father. Your mother thinks you're in danger, he said. That following your father's investigation could get you killed. My mother thinks a lot of things. She might be right about this one. Sophie's expression flickered, fear quickly suppressed. I know the risks. Do you? Because your father was shot in the head for asking questions? If the same people are still out there, then they'll come for me eventually, whether I investigate or not. Sophie lifted her chin. At least this way I'm fighting back. The door from the apartment opened. Lucas stood there in his pajamas, rubbing his eyes. Dad, who are you talking to? Daniel's heart jumped. Lucas, go back upstairs. Is that the crying girl from the other day? Lucas squinted at Sophie. You look different. Sophie smiled. The first genuine smile Daniel had seen from her. I'm not crying today. That's good. Crying makes your face puffy. Lucas looked at his father. Is she your friend now? We're just talking, buddy. About what? Grown-up stuff. Lucas considered this. Does it have to do with the fancy car lady? Sophie's smile faded. Fancy car lady. My mom, Lucas explained. She came to pick up Dad yesterday, in a really expensive car. Lucas, Daniel's voice carried a warning. What I'm just saying. Lucas looked at Sophie. Are you on the good side or the bad side? The question hung in the air. Simple, direct, the way only a child's question could be. I'm trying to figure that out myself, Sophie said quietly. Lucas nodded as if this made perfect sense. Dad always says you can tell good people by what they do when nobody's watching. What do you do when nobody's watching? Sophie stared at him for a long moment. Then she laughed softly. I look for the truth. That sounds like the good side to me. Lucas turned to his father. Can I have cereal now? Daniel released a breath he hadn't realized he was holding. Yeah, buddy, go ahead. I'll be up in a minute. After Lucas disappeared upstairs, Sophie spoke again. He's smart. Too smart sometimes. He looks like you. He's got his mother's brain. Daniel paused. She died 3 years ago. Cancer. I'm sorry. Me too. He looked at the contract folder still sitting on his workbench. Your mother's offer would pay off the medical debt. Send Lucas to any college he wants. Is that why you're considering it? I'm considering it because my roof leaks and my truck needs new brakes and my kid deserves better than what I can give him right now. Daniel's jaw tightened. But I'm also considering it because your mother is scared of something, and scared people sometimes tell the truth. Sophie's eyes narrowed. Or they lie to protect themselves. Maybe, but the fear was real. I've seen enough of it to know. He thought of Maria in the hospital, the terror in her eyes when the doctor explained the prognosis. Your mother is afraid for you. Whether she's guilty of what you suspect or not, that part is genuine. She's afraid of losing control, Sophie countered. That's different. Is it? The question seemed to unsettle her. She turned away, walking toward the garage door. I need to go. My driver will be looking for me. Sophie. She stopped but didn't turn around. If I take this contract, I'm not going to spy on you for your mother, but I'm not going to spy on her for you either. Now she turned. Then what will you do? Find the truth, for myself. Daniel held her gaze. And if that truth puts you in danger, I'll do whatever it takes to keep you safe. Not because your mother is paying me, because it's the right thing to do. Sophie stared at him for a long moment. Something shifted in her expression. Not trust exactly, but the possibility of it. My father used to say the same thing, she said softly, that doing right didn't need a reason. Smart man? He was. Her voice caught, before they took that from him. She left without another word. Daniel watched the Mercedes disappear down the street before returning to his workbench. The contract sat there like a coiled snake. He'd made a decision without even realizing it. He was going to sign. Not because of the money, though God knew he needed it. Not because Catherine Blackwell had threatened him with knowledge of his debts and his son. He was going to sign because a 17-year-old girl was walking into something that had already destroyed her father. Because someone at Blackwell Dynamics was developing weapons illegally. Because the truth was buried somewhere in that corporate labyrinth, and nobody else seemed willing to dig for it. Daniel picked up a pen. His phone rang. Unknown number. He answered. Carter? Mr. Carter. Marcus Webb. The voice was smooth, cultured, controlled. I see you haven't taken my advice about declining the Blackwell contract. How would you know that? I have access to certain information channels. A pause. I also know Sophie visited your garage this morning, quite early for a social call. Daniel's grip tightened on the phone. Are you having me watched? I'm protecting company interests. There's a difference. Doesn't feel different from my end. Webb chuckled. I understand your suspicion. In your position, I'd feel the same way. But I assure you, Mr. Carter, I'm not your enemy. Then who is? That's the question, isn't it? Webb's voice dropped. Catherine Blackwell is not who she appears to be. Neither is her daughter. Both are playing games with histories that go back years. You've stumbled into the middle of something you don't understand. Then help me understand. Meet me, today, noon. There's a diner called Kelly's on the corner of 5th and Morrison. I'll explain everything. Why should I trust you? You shouldn't trust anyone, Mr. Carter. But you should gather information from every available source. Webb paused. Richard Blackwell was my mentor. My friend. What happened to him? It shouldn't have happened. And it shouldn't happen to anyone else. The line went dead. Daniel set down the phone and stared at the contract again. 3 people now. Catherine Blackwell claiming innocence and asking him to protect her daughter. Sophie Blackwell claiming her mother orchestrated illegal weapons development and her father's shooting. Marcus Webb claiming to be an ally while warning him away from both. At least 2 of them were lying. Maybe all 3. He signed the contract. Then he called the number Catherine had provided. She answered on the first ring. You've decided. I'm signing, but I have conditions. I'm listening. Sophie wants automotive lessons. I provide them. No surveillance, no reports back to you on what we discuss. Silence stretched across the line. That's an unusual stipulation, Catherine said finally. It's non-negotiable. You barely know my daughter, Mr. Carter. What makes you think you understand what she needs? Because I recognize the look in her eyes. My son has the same one when he looks at his mother's old things. Daniel's voice hardened. She's not just learning about cars. She's trying to connect with her father. I won't turn that into an intelligence operation. Another long pause. You're more perceptive than I expected. I'm a mechanic. I notice when things don't work right. Catherine almost laughed. Almost. Very well. Teach Sophie whatever she wants to learn. Your first assignment is tomorrow morning. My Tesla needs servicing before a trip to Seattle. It will be delivered to your shop at 8. I'll need diagnostic access codes. They'll be included. She paused. And Mr. Carter, be careful who you trust. My daughter means well, but she's been down this road before. It led to her father's hospital room. The call ended. Daniel looked at the clock. 3 hours until his meeting with Webb. He spent the time working on routine repairs, trying to quiet his mind. Mrs. Patterson's Buick. Mr. Hernandez's pickup. The familiar work calmed him, let him think. By 11:30, he'd made up his mind about how to handle the meeting. He'd listen. He'd observe. He wouldn't commit to anything. The diner was exactly what Webb had described. Working-class neighborhood vinyl booths, coffee that tasted like it had been burning for hours. The kind of place where nobody asked questions. Webb was already there. Mid-50s silver hair tailored suit that looked absurdly out of place among the truckers and construction workers nursing their lunches. He rose when Daniel entered. "Mr. Carter, thank you for coming." Daniel slid into the booth across from him. "Let's skip the pleasantries. What do you want?" "Direct. I appreciate that." Webb smiled without warmth. "What I want is to understand why Catherine Blackwell has taken such an interest in you. She told me. Her daughter trusts me." "Sophie trusts no one. That's part of her psychological profile." Webb leaned forward. "I think there's more to Catherine's interest than maternal concern. Such as, your background, senior mechanical engineer at Westbrook, specialization in electromagnetic systems and power distribution." Webb's eyes narrowed. "Particularly relevant expertise, given certain developments at Blackwell Dynamics." Daniel kept his face neutral. "I fix cars now. That's all." "Of course." Webb didn't sound convinced. "Did Sophie mention Project Shadow Strike?" Daniel said nothing. "I'll take that as a yes." Webb stirred his coffee slowly. "What she probably told you is that her mother authorized the project, that Catherine has been developing illegal weapons technology behind the board's back. Is she? Someone has. That much is certain." Webb set down his spoon. "But the financial trail doesn't lead to Catherine. It leads to authorization codes that were supposed to be deactivated years ago, Richard Blackwell's codes." "Richard's been incapacitated for 4 years." "Exactly. Which means someone has been using his credentials to authorize payments, access secure systems, move money through shell companies." Webb's voice dropped. "Someone who knew his passwords, his security protocols, his financial architecture." "Someone like his wife." "Or someone like his protege." Webb met Daniel's eyes. "I'm aware of how this looks. The CFO pointing fingers at the CEO while sitting in a diner with a man she just hired. Very convenient." The thought crossed my mind. "It should. You should question everything I tell you." Webb leaned back. "But consider this. If I were behind Shadow Strike, why would I warn you about it? Why would I risk exposure by meeting you? To misdirect. To make yourself look innocent. Possible. Or perhaps I'm telling the truth, and Catherine Blackwell is using her daughter's investigation to identify threats." Webb paused. Richard was close to exposing everything before he was shot. Not just the project, but who was running it. Catherine knew he was getting close, and then conveniently, he was silenced. "Sophie thinks her mother ordered the shooting. Sophie has thought that for 4 years. It's driven her investigation." Webb's expression darkened. "But she's operating on emotion, not evidence. The truth is more complicated." "What's the truth?" "I don't know. Not yet." Webb pulled an envelope from his jacket. "What I do know is that Catherine's Tesla contains surveillance equipment, professional grade, military specification. Someone has been monitoring her movements, her conversations, every electronic device that comes near her vehicle." Daniel's jaw tightened. He'd suspected something was wrong with that Tesla since Catherine mentioned it. If Catherine installed that surveillance herself, it's a clever cover. She gets to play victim while monitoring everyone around her. Webb slid the envelope across the table. If someone else installed it, then she's being watched by the same people who shot Richard. Either way, you're walking into a dangerous situation. Daniel didn't touch the envelope. "What's in there?" "Technical specifications. Enough for someone with your background to identify the surveillance equipment and trace its origin." Webb's voice hardened. "Find out who's monitoring Catherine Blackwell, and you'll find out who's really behind Shadow Strike." "Why don't you trace it yourself?" "Because I'm inside the company. My every move is tracked, my communications monitored." Webb stood dropping money on the table for coffee he hadn't drunk. You're outside, Mr. Carter. An independent contractor with a legitimate reason to access company vehicles. You can look for things I can't. And if I find something that implicates you, Webb smiled coldly. Then you'll know the truth, won't you? He walked out without looking back. Daniel sat alone in the booth staring at the envelope. 3 stories now. 3 versions of events. 3 people pointing fingers at each other while claiming innocence. His phone buzzed. Text from Sophie. Webb is dangerous. Don't believe anything he told you. Another buzz. Text from Catherine. Diagnostic codes for tomorrow's service attached. I trust your discretion. Daniel picked up the envelope Webb had left. Inside were technical schematics for surveillance equipment. Advanced, sophisticated, the kind of technology that didn't show up in civilian applications. His engineer's mind recognized it immediately. This wasn't corporate espionage hardware. This was military specification, the same level of technology described in the Shadow Strike documents Sophie had shown him. Someone was using weapons-grade surveillance to monitor the CEO of Blackwell Dynamics. Either Catherine had installed it herself as cover for something sinister, or she was a target, and Daniel had just agreed to service the vehicle containing that surveillance tomorrow morning. He drove back to the shop with his mind churning. Lucas would be home from school soon. Math competition results today. Normal life continuing while Daniel sank deeper into something that felt anything but normal. The shop phone was ringing when he arrived. Carter Repairs. Mr. Carter. A voice he didn't recognize. Male. Professional. Cold. You've been asking questions about things that don't concern you. Daniel's blood chilled. Who is this? Consider this a friendly warning. Catherine Blackwell, Sophie Blackwell, Marcus Webb. They're all playing games with you as the pawn. A pause. Walk away now and nothing happens to you or your son. If you touch my son, we're not threatening, we're advising. There's a difference. The voice remained calm, almost pleasant. Sign the contract. Service the vehicles. Collect your money. But stop asking questions about Shadow Strike. Stop meeting with people who want to use you. And if I don't, then we'll have to revisit this conversation, under less friendly circumstances. The line went dead. Daniel stood frozen, phone still pressed to his ear. Someone else was watching. Someone who knew about his meetings with Sophie and Webb. Someone who knew about Lucas. A 4th player. One who hadn't shown their face yet. The door opened. Lucas bounded in, backpack bouncing. Dad? I got 2nd place. Mrs. Henderson said I'm going to state. Daniel forced himself to smile. To set down the phone. To be present for his son in this moment. That's amazing, buddy. I'm so proud of you. Can we get pizza to celebrate? Sure, anything you want. Lucas hugged him tight. Small arms wrapped around Daniel's waist. Complete trust. Complete innocence. Daniel held his son and made a decision. He wasn't going to walk away. He wasn't going to be scared into silence. Someone had just threatened his boy, and that changed everything. Tomorrow he would service Catherine Blackwell's Tesla. He would find the surveillance equipment. He would trace its origin. And then he would find out who was really behind Shadow Strike. Whatever it took. Whatever the cost. The Tesla arrived at exactly 8 in the morning. Daniel watched the driver pull into his garage, the sleek black vehicle looking like it belonged on a different planet from the oil-stained concrete and peeling walls surrounding it. The driver handed him a sealed envelope containing access codes, nodded once, and departed in a waiting sedan without speaking a word. Lucas had already left for school. Mrs. Chen had walked him to the bus stop while Daniel stood at the window watching until the yellow bus disappeared around the corner. The anonymous phone call from yesterday still echoed in his mind. The threat against his son. He locked the garage door before beginning work. The Tesla's diagnostic system was impressive. State-of-the-art battery management, proprietary software governing everything from acceleration to climate control. Daniel connected his laptop and began the standard maintenance protocols Catherine had requested. But that wasn't why he was really here. He worked methodically, checking each system while searching for anything unusual. An hour passed, then 2. He found nothing out of the ordinary in the standard components. Then he accessed the secondary processing unit. It was hidden behind the main computer housing, connected through a junction that didn't appear in any official Tesla documentation. Daniel had rebuilt enough vehicles to recognize factory components. This wasn't one of them. He photographed it from multiple angles, then traced the wiring. The unit was monitoring everything: location data, audio from the cabin, communications from any device that connected to the vehicle's Bluetooth system, even electromagnetic signatures from nearby electronics, military-grade surveillance. Exactly what Webb had described. Daniel's hands trembled slightly as he documented his findings. Someone had gone to extraordinary lengths to install this equipment without Catherine knowing. Or Catherine had installed it herself and was playing a very sophisticated game. His phone buzzed. Text from an unknown number. "Stop what you're doing, now!" Daniel stared at the message. His heart hammered against his ribs. Another buzz. Same number. "We can see you, Mr. Carter. Step away from the vehicle." He looked up at the garage windows. The frosted glass revealed nothing. But someone was watching. Someone knew exactly what he'd found. His phone rang. He answered without thinking. "You were warned." The same cold voice from yesterday. "You chose not to listen." "Who are you?" "Someone who's trying to keep you alive, which is becoming increasingly difficult given your stubbornness." Daniel forced his voice to stay calm. "I'm just servicing a vehicle. That's what I was hired to do." "You're documenting surveillance equipment. You're taking photographs. You're planning to trace the origin." A pause. "We've been monitoring your laptop activity for the past 2 hours." The blood drained from Daniel's face. They weren't just watching. They were inside his systems. "What do you want?" "I want you to complete the maintenance, return the vehicle, and forget what you found. Collect your money, raise your son, live your life. And if I can't forget, then your son will need a new father." The line went dead. Daniel stood motionless, phone clutched in his hand. The threat was explicit now. No ambiguity. No room for misinterpretation. He had a choice. Walk away and protect Lucas, or push forward and risk everything. Maria's voice echoed in his memory. The last coherent conversation they'd had before the morphine took her mind. "Promise me you'll show him what it means to be a good man, Daniel. Not a safe man, a good one. There's a difference." He looked at the surveillance unit, at the photographs on his phone, at the evidence of something deeply wrong happening inside Blackwell Dynamics. Then he made his choice. He called Marcus Webb. "Mr. Carter, I didn't expect to hear from you so soon. I found it, the surveillance equipment in Catherine's Tesla. You were right." Silence on the line. Then, "Can you trace the origin?" "Not alone. I need help. Someone with cybersecurity expertise." "I might know someone, but meeting is dangerous now. They're watching you." "I know. They just called." Webb's breath caught. "They threatened you. They threatened Lucas." Another pause. Longer this time. "Then you need to decide, Mr. Carter, right now. Are you in or out? Because once you take the next step, there's no going back." Daniel thought of his son. The gap-toothed smile, the math competitions, the way Lucas trusted him completely to keep their small world safe. Then he thought of Sophie, 17 years old, fighting alone for 4 years to find justice for her father. No one believing her, no one helping. "I'm in." "There's a man named James Chen, no relation to your neighbor. He runs a cybersecurity firm downtown, former NSA. I'll arrange a meeting." Webb's voice dropped. "But you need to disappear first. Take your son somewhere safe. Somewhere they can't find you." "Where?" "I don't know. That's the point. Somewhere off the grid. Use cash. No credit cards. No phone calls to anyone who might be monitored. That's everyone. Then find someone new. Webb paused. You have until tonight. Once they realize you're not backing down, they'll move on, Lucas. The call ended. Daniel's mind raced. Where could he take Lucas that no one would find them? His parents were dead. Maria's family had cut ties after the funeral, blaming him for the medical debt that had consumed their daughter's final months. Then it hit him. The cabin. Maria's grandmother's place in the mountains, 2 hours outside Portland. No electricity, no internet. The deed had been transferred to Maria years ago, and she'd never updated any records after the old woman died. It was off the grid. Forgotten. Perfect. Daniel finished the Tesla maintenance on autopilot, his mind already planning. He photographed every component of the surveillance system, then encrypted the images using software he hadn't touched since his Westbrook days. He emailed the encrypted files to 3 separate accounts, including one he created specifically for this purpose. If something happened to him, the evidence would survive. The Tesla's driver returned at 2:30 to collect the vehicle. Daniel handed over the keys and the service documentation without mentioning what he'd found. Everything check out? The driver asked. Standard maintenance, nothing unusual. The driver studied him for a moment, then nodded and drove away. Daniel had 3 hours before Lucas got home from school. He spent them preparing. Cash withdrawal from 3 different ATMs, staying under the reporting threshold each time. A bag packed with clothes for both of them. Food that wouldn't spoil. His old engineering notebooks with the shadow strike information he'd compiled. And the gun. He hadn't touched it since Maria's funeral. A .38 revolver his father had given him years ago. He'd always kept it locked in a safe in the back of his closet, unloaded away from Lucas. Now he loaded it and tucked it into his jacket. When Lucas came through the door at 3:15, backpack bouncing, Daniel was waiting. Dad, why are you dressed like that? Are we going somewhere? Camping trip, buddy, you and me, just like we used to do with Mom. Lucas's face lit up. Really? But I have school tomorrow. I already called, told them you're sick. You lied. Sometimes grown-ups have to make hard choices. Daniel knelt down, meeting his son's eyes. I need you to trust me right now. Can you do that? Lucas studied him. The boy was too smart. He knew something was wrong. Is this about the fancy car, lady? It's about keeping you safe. From what? From people who want to hurt us. Lucas's eyes widened. Bad guys. Like in the movies. Something like that. Are you scared, Dad? Daniel hesitated. Maria had always told him to be honest with Lucas, even when the truth was hard. Yeah, buddy, I'm scared, but I'm more scared of not protecting you than I am of anything else. Lucas reached out and took his hand, small fingers wrapping around his palm. Mom said you were the bravest person she ever knew. She said that's why she married you. Daniel's throat tightened. Your mom saw things in me I couldn't see in myself. I see them too. Lucas squeezed his hand. Let's go camping. They left through the back door, cutting through Mrs. Chen's yard to the alley behind the building. Daniel had parked his truck 2 blocks away that morning, anticipating the need for a clean exit. No one followed them. At least no one he could see. The drive to the mountains took longer than he remembered. Lucas fell asleep in the passenger seat, exhausted from the excitement and the underlying tension he was too young to fully understand. Daniel used the time to think. The surveillance equipment in Catherine's Tesla was military specification. The same technology level described in the shadow strike documents. Either Catherine was monitoring herself as part of an elaborate cover, or someone was monitoring her with weapons-grade capability. If it was someone else who, and why Webb claimed innocence, but he'd known exactly where to find evidence of the surveillance. He'd been one step ahead at every turn. Sophie believed her mother was guilty, but her evidence was circumstantial. A grieving daughter desperate to find someone to blame for her father's destruction. And the anonymous caller. The fourth player. Someone with access to military technology and the resources to monitor Daniel's every move. The pieces didn't fit together. Not yet. The cabin materialized in the darkness, a weathered structure surrounded by pine trees and silence. No lights for miles. No cell signal. No internet. Safety. For now. Daniel carried Lucas inside and tucked him into the old bed that still smelled faintly of cedar and dust. The boy didn't wake. Then he sat at the kitchen table with his notebooks and tried to make sense of what he knew. Project Shadow Strike. Precision EMP technology. Millions funneled through shell companies. Authorization codes that belonged to a man who could no longer speak. Richard Blackwell had found this, had traced the money, had gotten close to identifying who was really behind it. Then he'd been shot in the head. The official story was kidnapping gone wrong. But Sophie was right. The pieces didn't fit. Random kidnappers didn't use military ammunition, didn't vanish without a trace, didn't leave behind a victim who had been investigating corporate corruption. This was a targeted hit disguised as a random crime. And now Daniel was following the same trail. His burner phone buzzed. He'd bought it at a gas station for cash, told no one the number except Marcus Webb. "You made it." Webb's voice carried relief. "Good. Chen will meet you tomorrow at a coordinates I'm sending. Remote location. Secure." "How do I know I can trust Chen?" "You don't. But he's the best chance you have of tracing that surveillance equipment." Webb paused. "There's something else. Catherine called an emergency board meeting tonight. Someone leaked information about Shadow Strike to the directors." Daniel's stomach dropped. "Who leaked it?" "Unknown. But the board is demanding answers. Catherine's position is compromised." "Is she behind Shadow Strike or not?" "I don't know." For the first time, Webb sounded uncertain. "The financial trails are contradictory. Some point to her authorization codes. Others point to Richard's. It's like someone deliberately created confusion. Or like someone framed both of them." Silence on the line. "That's possible," Webb said slowly. "If someone had access to both their credentials, someone inside the company with the technical expertise to forge authorizations and the financial knowledge to hide the money trail." "Someone like you?" "Yes." Webb's voice hardened. "Or someone like Catherine's head of security. Or a dozen other executives with the right access." He paused. "But I'm not the enemy, Mr. Carter. I know how this looks. I know you have no reason to trust me. But Richard Blackwell was my friend. What happened to him destroyed something in me that I'm still trying to rebuild. Then help me find the truth." "That's what I'm trying to do." Webb's voice dropped. "The meeting with Chen. Be there at noon. Bring everything you've documented. And Mr. Carter, watch your back. If they've tracked you to that cabin, they'll come tonight." The call ended. Daniel checked the windows, the doors, the locks. All secure, but he knew that security was an illusion. If someone wanted in badly enough, they'd get in. He sat in the dark with the .38 in his lap and waited for dawn. Hours passed. Lucas slept peacefully in the other room, unaware of the danger surrounding them. Daniel dozed in fragments, jerking awake at every sound, every creak of the old cabin settling. Nothing came. By morning, he'd convinced himself that maybe he'd overreacted. Maybe they'd lost interest once he left the city. Maybe the threats were just intimidation, not intent. Then he found the note. It was tucked under the windshield wiper of his truck. A single sheet of paper with typed words. "We know where you are. We're watching your son. Stay in the cabin. Wait for further instructions. Do not contact anyone else." Daniel's blood turned to ice. They'd found him. Even here. Even in a place no one should have known existed. He looked at the tree line surrounding the cabin. Nothing moved. But they were out there. Watching. Lucas appeared in the doorway, rubbing his eyes. "Dad, what's wrong?" Daniel crumpled the note in his fist. "Nothing, buddy. Just checking on the truck. Can we go fishing today? Mom said there used to be trout in the stream." "Maybe later." Daniel forced a smile. "Let's have breakfast first." While Lucas ate cereal, Daniel made a decision. He couldn't wait passively for whoever was watching to make their move. He couldn't follow their instructions like an obedient hostage. That wasn't who he was. That wasn't who Maria had believed he could be. He found the cabin's old landline phone. It hadn't been used in years, but the line might still work. He picked up the receiver and heard dial tone. He called the number Webb had given him for James Chen. "Who is this?" The voice was sharp, suspicious. "Daniel Carter. Webb arranged a meeting." "Carter, yes, where are you?" "Compromised. They found me, left a note on my truck overnight." Chen cursed softly. "How did they track you?" "I don't know. I used cash. Took back roads. No one followed me." "Your phone?" "Burner. Bought for cash." "Your vehicle. Did you check for tracking devices?" Daniel's stomach dropped. The truck. He'd been so focused on surveillance in Catherine's Tesla that he hadn't thought to check his own vehicle. "No." "There's your answer." Chen's voice carried a mix of frustration and resignation. "Doesn't matter now. They know your location. You have two choices. Run again or make a stand." "I have my son with me." "Then get him out first. Is there someone who can take him? Someone they wouldn't connect to you?" Daniel thought desperately. Mrs. Chen next door was obvious. Friends from the shop were too few and too traceable. Maria's family had cut ties. Then it hit him. Sophie Blackwell. She had resources, security, a vested interest in keeping Daniel alive and functional. And whoever was watching him wouldn't expect him to send his son to the enemy's daughter. "I might have someone." "Make the call. Get your son to safety. Then meet me at the coordinates Webb sent." Chen paused. "And Carter, if you've really found evidence of shadow strike surveillance, this is bigger than corporate corruption. This is national security level, the kind of thing that makes people disappear permanently." "I figured." "Good. Then you understand what you're walking into." Chen's voice hardened. "Noon. Don't be late." Daniel hung up and looked at Lucas, who was now building a tower out of cereal boxes. "Buddy, I need you to listen carefully." Lucas looked up. "Are we going fishing?" "Change of plans." Daniel knelt beside him. "I need you to stay with someone for a little while, someone who can keep you safe while I take care of some things." "Who?" "A girl named Sophie. You met her at the shop." "The crying girl?" Lucas frowned. "But you said she might be on the bad side." "I said she was figuring it out, just like me." Daniel squeezed his son's shoulder. "I trust her, buddy, and I need you to trust me." "For how long?" "A day, maybe two. I'll come back for you. I promise." Lucas's eyes filled with the fear he'd been hiding. "What if you don't come back? What if the bad guys hurt you?" Daniel pulled his son into a tight embrace. The small body trembled against him. "Your mom told me something before she died. She said I was supposed to show you what it means to be a good man. Not a safe man, a good one." He pulled back to meet Lucas's eyes. "Sometimes being good means taking risks. Sometimes it means fighting even when you're scared." "Are you fighting the bad guys?" "I'm trying to find out who they are first. Then I'll fight them." Lucas wiped his eyes with his sleeve. "Mom said you always did the right thing, even when it was hard." "I'm trying to, buddy. Every day I'm trying to." He called Sophie from the landline. She answered on the third ring. "Who is this?" "Daniel Carter. I need your help." "Mr. Carter." Confusion in her voice. "How did you get this number?" "Doesn't matter. I'm in trouble. The people behind Shadow Strike found me. They're watching the cabin where I'm hiding with my son." Silence. Then, "Where are you?" He gave her the location. I can have security there in 2 hours. But Mr. Carter, if you're asking me to take Lucas, I'm asking you to protect him, the way no one protected you 4 years ago." The words hung between them. "That's not fair," Sophie said quietly. "None of this is fair. But you're the only person I trust who has the resources to keep my son safe." "What about my mother?" "I don't know if I can trust your mother. I don't know if I can trust anyone. But I trust you, Sophie. You've been fighting this alone for years. You didn't give up when everyone told you to. That means something." Another long pause. "I'll send a team. 2 hours. Have Lucas ready." "Thank you." "Don't thank me yet." Her voice hardened. "Find out who did this to my father. Find out who's behind Shadow Strike. Then you can thank me." The line went dead. Daniel spent the next 2 hours preparing Lucas for the handoff. He packed his son's favorite books, his stuffed elephant, the worn photograph of Maria that Lucas kept under his pillow. "Sophie's not so bad," Lucas said as they waited. "She looked sad, but she smiled at me. She's been through a lot. Like us. Different kind of a lot. But yeah, like us." A black SUV appeared on the dirt road at exactly the 2-hour mark. Professional security personnel. The kind of people who carried weapons as casually as most people carried phones. Sophie wasn't with them, but she was on the phone when the team leader handed it to Daniel. "Lucas will stay at a secure location. Not my mother's estate. Somewhere private. Safe." Sophie's voice carried steel. "He'll be protected until you finish this. I don't know how long it will take." "Then it takes however long it takes." She paused. "My father spent 3 years investigating Shadow Strike. He got close to the truth. Close enough that they tried to kill him. I know. Don't make the same mistakes he made. Don't trust anyone completely. Don't share everything you know with any single person." Another pause. "And Mr. Carter. Come back alive. Lucas needs his father. I know what it's like to lose one." The call ended. Daniel knelt to say goodbye to Lucas. The boy threw his arms around his neck. "I don't want you to go." "I know, buddy. I don't want to go either." Daniel's voice caught. "But sometimes we have to do hard things. Because it's the right thing to do." "Yeah, because it's the right thing to do. Mom would be proud of you." The words broke something in Daniel's chest. He held his son tighter, memorizing the feel of the small body in his arms. "I love you, Lucas, more than anything in this world." "I love you too, Dad." Lucas pulled back, wiping his eyes. "Go fight the bad guys. I'll be okay." Daniel watched the SUV disappear down the dirt road, carrying his son toward safety. Then he got in his truck and drove toward the coordinates Chen had provided. Toward the truth. Toward whatever was waiting for him on the other side. The coordinates led Daniel to an abandoned industrial complex 40 miles outside Portland. Rusted warehouses. Cracked pavement. The kind of place where people came to disappear. James Chen was waiting beside a nondescript sedan, arms crossed, eyes scanning the perimeter like a man who expected trouble from every direction. "You're late," Chen said as Daniel climbed out of his truck. "I had to say goodbye to my son." Something in Chen's expression softened briefly. "Webb told me. The boy's with Sophie Blackwell. Her security team. Risky move, trusting the daughter of someone who might be behind all this. Sophie's not her mother." Chen studied him for a moment, then nodded. "Show me what you found." Daniel handed over his phone with the photographs of the surveillance equipment. Chen examined each image carefully, zooming in on serial numbers and connection points. "Military grade," Chen confirmed. "Same specification as NSA field equipment, but the manufacturing signatures are different. This isn't government issue." "Then who makes it?" "Private contractors. Black market suppliers." Chen looked up. "The kind of people who sell to whoever pays the most." "Can you trace it?" "Maybe. I'll need direct access to the equipment itself." The Tesla's back at Blackwell Dynamics. Catherine's probably using it right now. Then we need another approach. Chen handed back the phone. Webb mentioned you have engineering expertise. Electromagnetic systems. I used to. Shadow Strike is an EMP weapon. Precision targeting. The kind of technology that requires specialized knowledge to develop. Chen's eyes narrowed. Knowledge that someone at Blackwell Dynamics possesses. You think they recruited from inside the company? I think they recruited the best people available. Engineers who understood the theory. Scientists who could build the prototypes. Chen paused. The kind of people who might have worked at Westbrook Engineering before Blackwell Dynamics absorbed it. Daniel's blood went cold. You're saying someone I knew might be involved. I'm saying the acquisition of Westbrook wasn't just about business expansion. It was about acquiring talent, expertise. Chen's voice hardened. The Shadow Strike technical specifications match patents filed by Westbrook engineers. Patents that were transferred to Blackwell Dynamics in the merger. Which patents? Electromagnetic pulse containment, precision field generation, targeted disruption protocols. Chen met his eyes. Your patents, Mr. Carter? The world tilted beneath Daniel's feet. His patents. Technology he developed for civilian applications, power systems, electromagnetic shielding. Someone had weaponized his work. I never authorized military applications, Daniel said, his voice hoarse. You didn't have to. Once Blackwell Dynamics owned the patents, they could develop whatever they wanted. Chen's expression held something like sympathy. You were used, Mr. Carter. Your work was the foundation for Shadow Strike. That's why Catherine Blackwell was so interested in hiring you. She wanted me to figure out what they'd done with my technology. Or she wanted to keep you close. Monitor what you knew. Make sure you didn't become a problem. Daniel's mind raced. Every interaction with Catherine took on new meaning. The job offer, the surveillance equipment, the careful way she'd studied him during their first meeting. Had she known all along? Had she deliberately sought him out because of his connection to the underlying technology? There's more, Chen said. The financial authorizations for Shadow Strike used both Richard and Catherine Blackwell's credentials, but the technical approvals came through a third channel, someone with R&D access who could sign off on development protocols. Who? Chen pulled out a tablet and showed Daniel a document. An internal Blackwell Dynamics authorization form. Technical approval for Project Shadow Strike. The signature at the bottom made Daniel's stomach drop. Marcus Webb. Webb told me he was investigating Shadow Strike, Daniel said slowly. He said Richard was his friend, his mentor. Maybe he was. Maybe Webb was investigating and got caught. Maybe he was offered a choice: join or die. Chen shrugged. Or maybe Webb has been running Shadow Strike from the beginning, using Richard and Catherine as cover. He warned me about Catherine, told me not to trust her. Classic misdirection. Point the finger at everyone else while you're the one holding the gun. Daniel stared at Webb's signature on the document. The man had seemed genuine, concerned. But so had Catherine. So had Sophie. Everyone had a story. Everyone claimed innocence. How do I know I can trust you? Daniel asked. You don't. Chen met his gaze steadily. But I was in the NSA for 15 years. I've seen what happens when military technology falls into the wrong hands. Governments destabilized. Economies destroyed. Civilians caught in crossfires they never saw coming. His jaw tightened. Shadow Strike isn't just corporate corruption. It's a weapon that could change the balance of power worldwide. If it gets sold to the wrong buyer, people will die. A lot of people. Why do you care? Because my daughter was in Syria when one of our own weapons got turned against us. She was aid worker, 23 years old. Chen's voice cracked. She didn't survive. The grief in his eyes was unmistakable. The same grief Daniel saw in his own mirror every morning when he thought of Maria. I'm sorry, Daniel said. Don't be sorry. Help me stop this. Chen straightened. Webb has a meeting at the Blackwell Dynamics Aerospace facility tonight. Secure development area. Limited access. If Shadow Strike's operational prototype is anywhere, it's there. How do we get in? We don't. You do. Chen handed him a small device. This is a signal duplicator. If you can get close to the facility's security systems, it will clone the access protocols. Give us a way in. Webb knows what I look like. He'll recognize me. Webb thinks you're hiding in a cabin waiting for instructions. He doesn't know you've connected with me. Chen's expression hardened. But you need to move fast. The board meeting Catherine called exposed Shadow Strike to the directors. Webb's losing cover. He'll accelerate whatever he's planning. What is he planning? Delivery. The buyer is ready. The weapon is complete. Chen's voice dropped. If Webb gets that prototype out of the facility tonight, it's gone. We'll never trace it. Daniel looked at the signal duplicator in his hand. A small device that represented an enormous risk. My son, he said. If something happens to me, Sophie Blackwell will protect him. Whatever else is true about that family, the girl genuinely wants justice for her father. Chen paused. And if she's right about Catherine being innocent, then you'll have a powerful ally. And if she's wrong, then we're all in more trouble than we thought. Daniel pocketed the duplicator. What time is Webb's meeting? 9 tonight. The facility is 2 hours from here. Chen checked his watch. You have time to prepare. But Mr. Carter, once you're inside, you're on your own. I can't help you if something goes wrong. I understand. Do you... Chen grabbed his arm. The people behind Shadow Strike killed Richard Blackwell. They threatened your son. They've been tracking your every move. His grip tightened. This isn't a game. This isn't something you can fix with a wrench and good intentions. These are professionals who eliminate problems without hesitation. I know what I'm walking into. I don't think you do, but I think you're going to walk into it anyway. Chen released his arm. That either makes you brave or stupid. I haven't decided which. My wife used to say the same thing. Chen almost smiled. Smart woman. Daniel drove back toward Portland with his mind churning. The signal duplicator sat in his pocket like a bomb waiting to detonate. His patents. His technology. The work he'd been so proud of at Westbrook, the innovations he'd thought would make the world better, had been twisted into a weapon. Someone had taken his dreams and turned them into nightmares. And Marcus Webb had signed off on it. The same Marcus Webb who had warned him about Catherine, who had connected him with Chen, who had seemed so sincere in his concern for Richard Blackwell's legacy. Was it all manipulation? A careful game to keep Daniel chasing the wrong targets while Webb completed his plans. Or was there another explanation? Something Daniel couldn't see yet. His burner phone buzzed. Sophie's number. Mr. Carter, Lucas is safe. He's asking about you. Relief flooded through him. Can I talk to him? Not yet. The security protocols require communication blackout for the first 24 hours. Sophie paused. But he wanted me to tell you something. What? He said to remember what Mom told you, about being good, not safe. Daniel's throat tightened. He's a smart kid. He is. He also beat me at chess twice. A hint of warmth entered Sophie's voice. Your son is remarkable, Mr. Carter. He gets it from his mother. Silence on the line. Then, I found something. In my father's files. Something I missed before. What? A backup drive, hidden in a book on his shelf. I must have looked past it 100 times. Sophie's voice quickened with excitement. It contains financial records, Mr. Carter. Complete transaction histories for Shadow Strike. Every payment, every authorization, every shell company. Who's behind it? The authorizations are split. Some use my mother's credentials, some use my father's. But there's a third set. Someone who had access to both systems. Webb. How did you know? Chen showed me documents. Webb signed off on the technical approvals. Sophie exhaled sharply. Then it's him. It's been Webb all along. Maybe. Or maybe someone's framing him too. Why would you say that? Because nothing in this situation is what it appears. Everyone has a story. Everyone claims innocence. Daniel gripped the steering wheel. Your mother said she didn't authorize Shadow Strike. You believe she's guilty. Webb told me he was investigating, but his signature is on the approvals. Chen says Webb is running the operation, but Chen could be playing his own game. So who do you trust? Right now, you and Lucas. That's it. Sophie was quiet for a moment. That's not enough. You can't do this alone. I don't have a choice. Yes, you do. Let me help. Absolutely not. Your father got shot investigating this. I'm not putting you in the same position. I've been in this position for 4 years. Sophie's voice hardened. I'm not some fragile princess who needs protecting. I've been gathering evidence, building a case, waiting for the right moment to expose everything. And look where it got you. Alone, paranoid, estranged from your mother. At least I'm fighting. At least I'm not giving up. The accusation stung because it was true. Daniel had spent 5 years giving up, playing it safe, accepting the scraps life threw at him while his dreams rotted in a drawer. There's a facility, he said. Blackwell Dynamics Aerospace Division. Webb has a meeting there tonight. Chen thinks the Shadow Strike prototype is inside. The development complex outside the main campus. You know it. My father took me there once, before the divorce, before everything fell apart. Sophie's voice caught. He was so proud of what they were building. He said it would change the world. It might, just not the way he hoped. What are you planning? Daniel hesitated. Telling Sophie meant involving her, putting her at risk. But she was already involved, had been for years. Chen gave me a signal duplicator. If I can get close to the facility's security systems, it will clone the access protocols, give us a way inside. That's insane. The security there is military grade, armed guards, biometric scanners, electronic countermeasures. I know. You'll be caught. Or worse. Maybe. But if I don't try, Webb gets the prototype out tonight, sells it to whoever's buying, and everyone your father was trying to protect becomes collateral damage. Sophie was silent for a long moment. There's a maintenance tunnel, she finally said. East side of the facility. It connects to the water reclamation system. My father showed it to me years ago. Said it was the one blind spot in the security grid. Is it still accessible? I don't know, but it's your best chance of getting close without being detected. How do you know so much about the facility? Because I've been planning this infiltration for 2 years. Every security protocol, every patrol schedule, every possible entry point. Sophie's voice hardened. I was going to do it myself, before you came along and complicated everything. Why didn't you? Because I couldn't figure out what to do once I got inside. I can gather evidence, I can trace financial records, but I'm not a soldier. I can't fight my way through armed guards. Neither can I. No, but you can think like an engineer. You can understand the technology. If you get to the Shadow Strike prototype, you might be able to disable it. The idea hadn't occurred to Daniel. He'd been thinking about evidence, exposure. But Sophie was right. If he could access the prototype itself, he might be able to do more than document its existence. He might be able to destroy it. The maintenance tunnel, he said. Tell me everything you know. For the next hour, Sophie walked him through her years of preparation. Security rotations, sensor blind spots, the layout of the development complex, the location of the secure laboratory where the most sensitive projects were housed. By the time she finished, Daniel had a mental map of the facility and a plan that was equal parts desperate and dangerous. One more thing, Sophie said. My mother. She called an emergency board meeting tonight. She's trying to expose Shadow Strike through official channels. Webb will stop her. Maybe. But if she's really innocent, if she's been fighting this from the inside, then she might be an ally. Do you believe that now? Sophie hesitated. I don't know what I believe anymore. But I know that Webb's signature is on those approvals. I know my father trusted him completely. And I know that trust got him shot. I'll find out the truth. Promise me something, Mr. Carter. What? Come back alive. Lucas needs his father. Her voice cracked. And I need to know what really happened to mine. The call ended. Daniel drove toward the Blackwell Dynamics aerospace facility with the weight of promises pressing against his chest. To Lucas, to Sophie, to the memory of Maria and everything she'd believed he could be. The sun was setting as he reached the outskirts of the complex. He parked his truck in a wooded area a mile from the perimeter, then continued on foot. The maintenance tunnel was exactly where Sophie had described, a service cover hidden beneath overgrown vegetation. Daniel removed it carefully, revealing a concrete passage descending into darkness. He climbed down. The tunnel was damp and narrow, barely wide enough for his shoulders. He moved slowly, testing each step, listening for sounds of movement ahead. After 20 minutes, he reached an access point. A service hatch that led up into the facility's lower levels. He checked his watch. 8:40, 20 minutes until Webb's meeting. Daniel pushed open the hatch and emerged into a utility corridor. Emergency lighting cast everything in dim red shadows. No guards visible. So far, so good. He followed Sophie's directions, navigating through service passages and maintenance areas until he reached the perimeter of the secure development zone. Through a reinforced window, he could see the laboratory beyond. Advanced equipment. Computer terminals. Armed guards stationed at every entrance. And in the center of the room, something that made his breath catch. The prototype. It was smaller than he'd expected. A cylindrical device about the size of a fire extinguisher mounted on a mobile platform. But Daniel recognized the engineering. The electromagnetic field generators. The precision targeting array. The containment systems that had been adapted from his own patents. Shadow Strike. The weapon that could disable any electronic system within its range. The weapon that had already cost Richard Blackwell his mind and might soon cost much more. A door opened on the far side of the laboratory. Marcus Webb entered, flanked by two men in tactical gear. Daniel pressed himself against the wall, watching through the narrow window. Webb approached the prototype with the confidence of ownership. He ran his hand along its surface, checking displays and readouts. "Is it ready?" one of the tactical men asked. "Fully operational. The buyer's representative will be here within the hour." Webb smiled. "Once the transfer is complete, we disappear. New identities, new lives, enough money to never work again." "What about the board meeting Mrs. Blackwell is presenting evidence?" "Catherine's evidence is circumstantial. Without the prototype, she can't prove anything." Webb's smile widened. "By the time she convinces anyone to investigate, we'll be ghosts." Daniel's hand went to the signal duplicator in his pocket. If he could get closer to the security systems clone, the access protocols, then Chen could bring in reinforcements. Stop the transfer. Expose everything. But that would take time. Time he didn't have. He made a different choice. He stepped away from the window and moved toward the ventilation system that Sophie had mentioned. A maintenance access point that led directly into the laboratory. It was a 20-foot crawl through ductwork barely wide enough for his body. Every inch felt like a mile. Every sound seemed amplified. But Daniel kept moving, driven by the knowledge of what was at stake. He reached the internal grate and looked down. Webb stood directly below him, still examining the prototype. The tactical men had moved to secure the exits. Daniel had one chance. He kicked out the grate and dropped. He landed on Webb, driving the man to the floor. The tactical men spun, weapons rising, but Daniel was already moving. He grabbed the prototype's mobile platform and shoved it toward the nearest guard, creating chaos and confusion. "Stop him!" Webb screamed, scrambling to his feet. Daniel ran. He didn't have a plan beyond disruption, beyond keeping the prototype from reaching its buyer. He pushed through a door down a corridor, alarms shrieking around him. A guard appeared ahead. Daniel ducked under the man's swing and kept running. Another corridor. Another door. He was lost in the facility now, operating on instinct and adrenaline. Then he found it. An emergency containment chamber, the kind used for dangerous experiments. Heavy shielding, electromagnetic isolation, perfect for containing an EMP weapon. Daniel pulled the prototype inside and sealed the door behind him. Webb's face appeared in the observation window seconds later, twisted with rage. "Open the door, Carter!" "Not happening. You have no idea what you're interfering with. The buyer will kill us all if this deal falls through." "Then I guess we're all in trouble." Webb slammed his palm against the glass. "That weapon represents years of work, billions in development. You can't just destroy it." "Watch me." Daniel turned to the prototype. His engineer's mind assessed the components. The electromagnetic field generators, the power coupling, the targeting array. He began dismantling it. "Carter," Webb's voice cracked with desperation. "Think about your son. Think about what happens to Lucas if you don't walk out of here." Daniel's hands froze. "That's right. We know where he is. Sophie Blackwell's security team isn't as secure as she thinks." Webb's voice dropped to a deadly calm. "Open the door. Walk away. Your son lives. Keep this up, and I make one phone call." Daniel stared at the prototype, at the years of work and billions of dollars that had gone into creating a weapon of destruction. Then he thought of Maria, what she would tell him to do, what she would expect from the man she'd married. "You're bluffing," he said. "Am I?" Daniel resumed dismantling. "Sophie's smarter than you think. She's had 4 years to prepare. 4 years to anticipate every move people like you might make. People like me built this company, built this technology, built the future. People like you shot Richard Blackwell in the head and left him a vegetable." Daniel ripped out a crucial component. The prototype's displays flickered. "People like you threatened my son, my 10-year-old boy who just wants to do math problems and make his dead mother proud." He tore out another component. Sparks flew. Alarms intensified. "You're destroying years of progress," Webb hissed. "No. I'm stopping a weapon from being sold to people who will use it to kill innocents." Daniel looked at Webb through the glass. "My wife used to say there's a difference between being safe and being good. For 5 years I chose safe. I played small. I let people like you run the world while I fixed cars and counted my debts." He ripped out the final component. The prototype went dark. "Not anymore." The containment chamber door burst open. Guards flooded in. Daniel didn't resist as they forced him to the ground. But he was smiling. Because the weapon was destroyed. Because Lucas was safe. Because for the first time since Maria died, Daniel Carter had done something that mattered. Webb stood over him, face purple with fury. "You have no idea what you've done." "I know exactly what I've done." Daniel met his eyes. "I stopped you. For now." Webb pulled out a phone. "But this isn't over. Not by a long shot." He started to dial. Then the lights went out. The darkness lasted only seconds. Emergency generators kicked in, bathing the containment chamber in harsh red light. But in those seconds, everything changed. Daniel heard gunfire in the corridor, shouting, the sound of boots pounding against concrete. Webb spun toward the door, phone still in hand. "What the hell is happening?" One of the tactical guards pressed his earpiece. "Sir, we've got federal agents at the perimeter. Multiple breach points. They're everywhere." "That's impossible. No one knew about this facility." "Someone did." A new voice, female, commanding. Catherine Blackwell stepped through the doorway, flanked by men in FBI tactical gear. Her face was pale but composed, her eyes burning with cold fury. "Hello, Marcus." Webb's composure cracked. "Catherine, how did you—" "You underestimated my daughter." Catherine moved toward him slowly. "You underestimated all of us." Daniel pushed himself to his knees, guards still holding his arms. "Mrs. Blackwell." Stay where you are, Mr. Carter. We'll sort out your role in this momentarily. Catherine's gaze never left Webb. 4 years, Marcus. 4 years I trusted you. 4 years I blamed myself for Richard's shooting. 4 years my daughter hated me because she believed I was responsible. Catherine, listen to me. I'm done listening. Her voice cracked like a whip. Sophie found the backup drive, the one Richard hid in his study. Every transaction, every authorization, every communication you made with the buyers. Webb's face went gray. That drive was supposed to be destroyed. Richard was smarter than you thought. He knew someone close to us was involved. He just didn't know who. Catherine's eyes glistened. He trusted you, Marcus. We both did. It wasn't personal. You shot my husband in the head. You let my daughter believe I was a monster. You used my company to develop weapons for terrorists. Catherine's composure finally shattered. Don't you dare tell me it wasn't personal. Federal agents moved past them, securing the laboratory. The destroyed prototype was photographed and bagged as evidence. More agents led the tactical guards away in handcuffs. Webb stood alone now, cornered, desperate. You can't prove anything, he said. The prototype is destroyed. The evidence is circumstantial. Any competent lawyer will be irrelevant. James Chen stepped into the chamber, tablet in hand. We've got the buyer's representatives in custody. They're already talking. Trade immunity for testimony. He smiled coldly. You should have chosen better partners, Mr. Webb. Webb's shoulders sagged. The fight drained out of him like water from a broken pipe. How? He asked quietly. How did you coordinate this? Daniel answered. Sophie. She's been building this case for 4 years. Every document, every transaction, every piece of evidence her father left behind. He pulled himself to his feet, shaking off the guards who no longer seemed interested in restraining him. You thought she was just a grieving teenager chasing conspiracy theories. You never took her seriously. Sophie's a child. Sophie is the reason you're going to prison. Daniel stepped closer. She figured out the maintenance tunnel. She found the backup drive. She contacted her mother with the evidence while I was destroying your weapon. He met Webb's eyes. You lost because you underestimated a 17-year-old girl who loved her father. Webb stared at him. Then he laughed. A hollow, broken sound. Richard was right about you, Carter. He said you were the one variable we couldn't control. The wild card who might ruin everything. Webb shook his head. I should have had you killed the moment you changed that flat tire. Yeah, you should have. Federal agents took Webb into custody. He didn't resist, didn't speak, just walked out of the laboratory with the defeated posture of a man who knew his life was over. Catherine approached Daniel as the chaos around them slowly organized into procedure. Mr. Carter, I owe you an apology. For what? For using you. For investigating your background and manipulating you into this situation. She paused. For not being honest about what I suspected. You suspected Webb. I suspected someone inside the company. I couldn't prove who. So I hired you, hoping your engineering background would help identify anomalies in our systems. Catherine's jaw tightened. I told myself it was protection for Sophie. But it was also strategy. You were a tool, Mr. Carter. I'm not proud of that. Daniel considered her words. The anger he expected to feel didn't come. Instead, he felt something like understanding. You were trying to protect your daughter, your company, everything you'd built. He met her eyes. I can't fault you for that. Even though I put you and your son at risk. Lucas is safe. The weapon is destroyed. Webb is in custody. Daniel shrugged. I've had worse outcomes from simpler decisions. The ghost of a smile crossed Catherine's face. Sophie was right about you. Right about what? She said you were the most genuinely decent person she'd ever met. That helping her with the flat tire wasn't strategy or calculation. It was just who you are. It was just a flat tire. No, Mr. Carter, It was never just a flat tire. Catherine reached into her pocket and pulled out an envelope. This is yours, regardless of what happens next. Daniel opened it. A check. The amount made his vision blur. That's more than the service contract. It's compensation. For everything you've been through. For what you risked. Catherine paused. And for what your work made possible. My work? The patents from Westbrook. The technology Webb corrupted for Shadow Strike. Catherine's expression softened. Your innovations were meant to improve lives, power systems, electromagnetic shielding, clean energy applications. She gestured toward the destroyed prototype. This is what Webb turned them into. A weapon, a tool for destruction. I know. But here's what you don't know. The core technology is still sound. The civilian applications are still viable. Catherine met his eyes. Blackwell Dynamics is going to rebuild, without Shadow Strike, without the corruption, and I want you to lead the engineering team. Daniel stared at her. You're offering me a job. I'm offering you a chance to reclaim your work, to use your patents for what you originally intended. Catherine's voice carried conviction. You're a gifted engineer, Mr. Carter. You shouldn't be fixing cars in a garage with a leaking roof. You should be changing the world. The offer hung in the air. Everything Daniel had lost 5 years ago suddenly within reach again. I need to think about it. Of course. Catherine nodded. Take all the time you need. But Mr. Carter, whatever you decide, the check is yours. You've earned it. She walked away, leaving Daniel alone in the containment chamber with the wreckage of Shadow Strike and the ruins of Marcus Webb's empire. His phone buzzed. Sophie's number. Mr. Carter, is it over? It's over. Webb's in custody. The weapons destroyed. Sophie exhaled sharply. And my mother? She's here. She coordinated the federal response. Daniel paused. She's not what you thought she was. Silence on the line. Then, I know, she called me. After I sent her the evidence. Sophie's voice cracked. She apologized. For everything. For the divorce. For not understanding what Dad was going through. For letting me believe she was guilty. Do you believe her now? I want to. I've spent 4 years hating her. 4 years convinced she destroyed our family. Sophie's breath caught. But the evidence is clear. Webb forged both their credentials, framed both of them. My mother was a victim too. How do you feel about that? Confused, angry, relieved. A pause. Sad. Because I wasted so much time, so much energy, hating the wrong person. You didn't waste anything. You gathered the evidence that brought Webb down. Your father would be proud. My father doesn't know who I am. The raw pain in her voice made Daniel's chest ache. He knows. Somewhere inside he knows. You can't promise that. No, but I believe it. Daniel closed his eyes. Maria used to say that love doesn't disappear just because the mind forgets. It lives somewhere deeper, in the soul, in the bones. Sophie was quiet for a long moment. Your wife sounds like she was amazing. She was. Lucas told me about her while we were playing chess. Sophie's voice softened. He said she taught him that numbers were just another way of seeing the world, that math was poetry for people who think in patterns. Daniel smiled despite everything. That sounds like Maria. He also said she told him the most important equation was simple. Love plus courage equals everything that matters. The words hit Daniel like a physical force. Maria's words, from Lucas's mouth, through Sophie's voice. Mr. Carter, are you still there? Yeah, I'm here. He wiped his eyes. I'm here. Lucas wants to see you. He's been asking every 10 minutes. Where are you? Sophie gave him an address. A private residence, safe house quality. I'll be there in an hour. The drive felt longer than it was. Daniel's mind replayed everything that had happened. The flat tire, the phone call, Catherine's mansion, Sophie's accusations, Webb's betrayals, the destroyed weapon. All of it started because he'd stopped to help a crying girl in the rain. Maria would have stopped too. She always stopped, always helped, always believed that small kindnesses could change the world. Maybe she was right. The safe house was a modest home in a quiet neighborhood. Armed security at the perimeter, but discreet. Professional. Sophie met him at the door. She looked different than before. Younger somehow. The weight of 4 years of suspicion and hatred had lifted, leaving behind a 17-year-old girl who finally had answers. "He's in the living room," she said. "He's been driving the security team crazy with math problems." Daniel laughed. "That sounds like Lucas." He found his son on the couch, surrounded by papers covered in equations. Lucas looked up, and his face transformed into pure joy. "Dad?" Daniel caught him mid-leap, holding his boy tight. The familiar weight, the familiar smell of children's shampoo and cereal. "I missed you, buddy." "I missed you too. But Sophie taught me this new thing about prime numbers, and she said Mom was right about math being poetry, and we played chess 7 times, and I won 4, and she won 3. But she said the last one didn't count, because I distracted her with a joke about penguins." Daniel laughed, tears streaming down his face. "Slow down, buddy. I can't process that fast." "That's because you're old." "Thanks for the reminder." Lucas pulled back, studying his father's face, with Maria's perceptive eyes. "Did you beat the bad guys?" "Yeah, buddy. We beat the bad guys." "Was it scary?" "Sometimes." "Were you brave?" "I tried to be." Lucas nodded seriously. "Mom said being brave isn't about not being scared. It's about doing the right thing even when you are scared." "Your mom was the smartest person I ever knew." "I know." Lucas smiled. "That's why I'm going to be a mathematician, so I can be smart like her." Sophie appeared in the doorway. "He's already smarter than most adults I know, including me." "You're pretty smart too," Lucas said, "for someone who loses at chess." "I let you win." "No, you didn't. You made that face you make when you're frustrated. The one where your nose crinkles." Sophie laughed. Genuinely laughed. The sound transformed her entirely. "Your son," she told Daniel, "is terrifyingly observant. He gets that from his mother, too." The three of them sat together in the living room, while Lucas continued his explanation of prime numbers. Daniel half listened, mostly just absorbing the normalcy of the moment. His son. Safe. Happy. Unaware of how close everything had come to disaster. Sophie caught his eye over Lucas's head. "Thank you," she mouthed silently. Daniel nodded. An hour later, Lucas fell asleep on the couch, exhausted from excitement and the late hour. Daniel carried him to a bedroom, tucking him in the way Maria used to. "Sleep tight, buddy." "Dad, yeah. Is it really over? The bad guys are really gone." "They're really gone." "Good." Lucas's eyes fluttered closed. "I didn't like being scared, but I liked being brave with you." Daniel kissed his son's forehead. "Me too, buddy. Me too." He found Sophie in the kitchen, staring out the window at the darkness beyond. "How are you doing?" he asked. "Processing. A lot to process." She didn't turn around. 4 years of believing one thing, then finding out everything was different. "Your mother loves you." "I know. That's what makes it so hard." Sophie finally turned. Her eyes were red. "I said terrible things to her, accused her of murder, of betraying our family, of destroying my father." "You were grieving, angry, looking for someone to blame. That doesn't make it okay." "No, but it makes it understandable." Daniel leaned against the counter. "Maria and I fought sometimes, before she got sick. Stupid arguments about money and stress and the future. After she died, I spent months replaying every harsh word, every moment I chose work over her, every time I wasn't patient or kind or present. How did you stop? I didn't. Not completely. Daniel's voice softened. But eventually I realized that guilt doesn't honor the people we've lost. Living well does. Being better does. You make it sound simple. It's the hardest thing I've ever done. He met her eyes. But you've got something I didn't have. You've got your mother. Alive, present, willing to rebuild. Don't waste that chance on guilt. Sophie wiped her eyes. My father's doctor called today. There's a new treatment, experimental. It might help restore some cognitive function. That's good news. Maybe. Or maybe it's just another hope that leads nowhere. She shrugged. But I'm going to try. Visit him every week. Read to him. Talk to him. Even if he doesn't understand. He understands more than you think. You keep saying that. Because I believe it. Sophie studied him for a long moment. You really are the most genuinely decent person I've ever met. I'm just a mechanic who changed a flat tire. No, Mr. Carter. You're a man who destroyed a weapon, exposed a conspiracy, and protected my family. She paused. All because you stopped to help a crying girl in the rain. It seemed like the right thing to do. That's exactly my point. They stood in comfortable silence while the night settled around them. My mother offered you a job, Sophie said finally. I heard her talking to the board about it. She mentioned it. Are you going to take it? I don't know yet. You should. Your patents, your technology. It could do so much good if the right person was guiding it. Sophie's expression turned serious. Blackwell Dynamics needs people like you. People who do the right thing even when it's hard. What about you? What comes next? College. Eventually. But first I want to spend time with my mother. Try to repair what's broken. Sophie smiled sadly. It won't be easy. 4 years of damage doesn't heal overnight. But it's worth trying. It's always worth trying. The next morning, Daniel and Lucas drove back to Portland. The sun was rising over the mountains, painting the sky in shades of gold and pink. Dad. Yeah, buddy. Are we going back to the garage? For now. What about later? Daniel thought about Catherine's offer, the chance to reclaim his engineering career, to use his patents for good, to build something that mattered. Later might be different. Different how? I'm not sure yet, but maybe better. Maybe a lot better. Lucas considered this. Will we still have the garage? Maybe. Would that be okay? I like the garage. It smells like oil and sounds like fixing things. Lucas paused. But I'd also like a house with a room for my math stuff. And maybe a dog. Daniel laughed. Let's start with fixing the roof. We'll work up to the dog. They pulled into Portland as the city was waking up. The garage looked exactly as Daniel had left it. Peeling paint, crooked sign. The life he'd built from the wreckage of his dreams. But somehow it looked different now. Not like a failure, like a foundation. He unlocked the door and stepped inside. The familiar smells washed over him. Oil, metal, the honest work of keeping things running. His phone buzzed, a text from Sophie. Thank you for everything. Visit us sometime. Lucas owes me a chess rematch. S. He smiled and pocketed the phone. Lucas ran past him into the garage, already heading for the workbench where he liked to stack bolts in mathematical patterns. Dad? When's the next car coming in? Tomorrow, Mrs. Patterson's Buick again. Can I watch you fix it? You can help me fix it. Lucas's face lit up. Really? Really? Time you learned the family business. But I'm going to be a mathematician. You can be both. Your mom was a nurse and a poet. I was an engineer and now I'm a mechanic. Daniel ruffled his son's hair. People aren't just one thing, buddy. We're all the things we choose to be. That night after Lucas was asleep, Daniel sat at his desk with the contract Catherine had left and the check she'd given him. He thought about Maria, about the promises he'd made, about what it meant to be a good man instead of a safe one. Then he signed the contract. Not because of the money, not because of the opportunity, but because his work deserved to be used for good. Because the world needed people who did the right thing even when it was hard. Because a crying girl had needed help with a flat tire, and he'd stopped. That's all it had been. One small act of kindness, one moment of basic human decency, and it had changed everything. 3 months later, Daniel stood in a corner office at Blackwell Dynamics, looking out over the city he'd once viewed from the bottom up. His team was developing clean energy applications, power systems that could change how the world used electricity. Technology that would help instead of harm. Lucas had his own room now. A house with a small backyard. And yes, a dog. A rescue mutt named Newton, who chewed on everything and made Lucas laugh until he couldn't breathe. Sophie visited every Sunday for chess. She was beating Lucas now 5 games to 3, though he insisted the losses were strategic retreats. Catherine had stepped back from daily operations, focusing instead on rebuilding her relationship with Sophie. They weren't healed. Not yet. But they were trying. And sometimes trying was enough. Richard Blackwell was responding to the experimental treatment. Small improvements. Flickers of recognition. The doctors were cautiously optimistic, and Marcus Webb was awaiting trial, his empire in ruins, his future measured in prison cells and legal proceedings. Daniel thought about all of it as he watched the sunset paint the city in gold. His phone buzzed. A text from Lucas. "Dad, come home. Newton ate your favorite shoe, but I think I can negotiate a settlement. Also, I made dinner. It's cereal, but I put extra bananas, so it's fancy." Daniel smiled and gathered his things. Some people change the world with grand gestures. Revolutionary inventions, billion-dollar companies, historical moments that echoed through time. But Daniel Carter had learned something different. The world could also be changed by stopping in the rain to help a crying stranger. By doing the right thing when no one was watching. By choosing kindness over convenience, courage over safety, love over fear. Maria had known this. She'd lived it every day of her too short life. Now Daniel was living it too. He walked out of the office, headed home to his son and his dog and the life he'd almost lost. And he knew with absolute certainty that this was exactly where he was supposed to be. Not because he'd planned it, but because one ordinary Tuesday afternoon he'd stopped to change a flat tire for a crying girl in the rain. And that single act of kindness had changed everything.